So it doesn't matter whether you're a government or a small company or a corporate entity, but you're still vulnerable to be attacked by cyber. So that's very much the reason why you should probably listen to this video. You might ask why I'm here in the park, in Hyde Park, overlooking the Iranian embassy behind me. Well, it's part of the story because it goes back to May 1980, when I was a kid at home watching the British Special Air Service counter-terrorism guys going down the front of this building, blowing the windows out, taking out the terrorists, saving the hostages. At that time, I was still waiting to go into the British military, so none of that excitement for me, and I ended up going into the Air Force. But it started me on a path being very aware that there's bad people out there, and actually you can do something about it. Now, I've always been of the view that people who've been in the service have always got something to offer, not just those who are still serving or working with the police. And so our company and our friends that we work with have put together some things that we think is going to be of use to you. The big difference for what we're talking about, though, is whereas what went on behind us was physically protecting people and there was a physical threat, it's now in the technology space, what people call cyber. But it's a word that scares the hell out of people, particularly small companies or medium companies that don't have the funds, the resources to have their own security people, even their own technology people. Probably the local computer company on the high street is your IT department. You're the guys we want to talk to, and you're the guys that we want to help. Now, just before I go on to explain why this is so important in any technical detail, if you don't believe that small companies get hit, here's some statistics for you that maybe will get you to take notice. Last year in the US, because they've got more up-to-date figures than we've got over here in the UK, 71% of cyber attacks were aimed at businesses with less than 100 employees. So if you're one of those businesses, that's you. 71% was aimed at you guys. Now, of those companies that got hit and actually an attack got through, 60% of them were no longer in business 12 months later. 60% went out of business because of the attacks. Just think about it. So the next thing we tend to get asked is, well, what can we do about it? We're only little. Well, I'll tell you a story. British National Health Service got hit by the WannaCry attacks, as they were referred. Now, a lot of people talked about it in the press and said, oh, they were targeted. The honest truth is they weren't. They got caught in the crossfire because of bad processes, bad training and bad procedures. How do we know that? Well, a number of the trusts didn't get affected at all. And once everybody looked into what was going on, there were three main failures. Simple terms, you don't need to be a techie to understand this. Number one, there were staff who were pushing on the phishing emails that were actually putting the attacks into place. Now, if they hadn't done that, then nothing would have actually started off. Number two, the tech teams hadn't updated the software. Now, frequently it's not their fault, but they were running Windows 95. Now, why do we know that's a problem? Apart from the fact it's obsolete and it was out of support. Microsoft, being the good guys, had actually put a support pack out to update it so that it was proof to the WannaCry attacks. But a lot of the trusts didn't implement those updates. Finally, the attack vectors have actually been worked out, that how to get in and out of the firewalls. And actually, if the firewalls have been locked down in a particular way, then the attacks wouldn't have worked anyway. They wouldn't have been able to get the encryption on. They wouldn't have been able to exfil what they were trying to do. So that is straying into technical territory, which I'm not going to talk about today. But the point is, if the health service can get hit by attacks that can easily be solved by human processes, you can solve the same problems, but equally, how vulnerable are you to those attacks? And just to give you some metrics, those attacks cost 73 million to the National Health Service in the UK in repairing IT systems. Indirect costs of cancelled operations and cancelled events were 19,000 appointments, 19,000 operations cancelled, and of those, that worked out at approximately 19 million in direct cost of lost medical care. That's huge. Just imagine what impact that would have on your business. Point is, that our training and what we're trying to do for you is not trying to fix your tech. You can learn about that, but what we're trying to do is fix the human component, fix the humans. And that's where we can make such a big difference to you. Now, my name's Nick Lamb. I'm a former military intelligence officer, and I'm our director of Good Alex. We have access to friends and allies who are former GCHQ operators, and those guys are the equivalent of the NSA in the States if you're watching this in America. So we've got some real deep knowledge, and they helped us write these courses that we're going to be showing you about a little bit later on in this video. We've also got a deep knowledge on social media, the vulnerabilities and how it can be weaponized. And so if any of this is of interest for you, just click the links at the bottom of this video and follow through and get access to the next information we've got out there, get access to some free ebooks and some free training. As we said earlier, there's an attack pretty much every 39 seconds globally. Now those 43%, that's the actual number, are aimed at non-corporates, in other words SMEs. And so out of those, over 50% are going to be out of business within 12 months. Now that's a frightening number if you think about what it could do to your business. Now with small companies, you don't actually have to have a huge cyber or technical profile. They could be going after your IPR, they can go after your customer base, and they can be going after even your credit card records and your basic financials. If they can steal it, they'll have it. Now one of the things you want to be aware of is gone are the days of relying on the fact that if you lose money or it gets stolen, the credit card companies or the banks will cover it. Well, here's a wake-up call for you. What the online criminals are getting better at is stealing your credentials, stealing your data, fishing it out of you and your employees. And the bad news is that if that data is used to transact money out of your accounts or pay it somewhere else, the banks and the credit cards, no matter how much sympathy they got for you, will treat it as a legitimate transaction because your real credentials were used. Now we're not going to pretend that we're going to give you an instant CISO or complete cyber protection. You can't do that in this world. But I'll give you an analogy of what this is going to be like. If you live in an area where there's other houses around you, which most people do, probably it's old common knowledge that the bad guys who are going to break into your house are going to look at the locks on your door, the locks on your windows, and they've got a burglar alarm on the side of your wall. And if the answer is to any of those yes, they're not going to not break into your house because they can't. They're going to go next door where there isn't a burglar alarm or there's dodgy old locks because it's easier. They're going to go after the easier target. Now at the moment, ask yourself, are you an easy or a hard target? All we're trying to do is get you to be a hard target in the cyber and digital space. So after my military career, I got injured when I was serving with the army on exchange. I became an instructor, and after ending up as an A category instructor at one of the intelligence schools, I then moved back into industry and the technical security side. So I've got a fair old background in this sort of stuff. Now, as an instructor, these courses are going to be teaching you the basics. Keyword, the basics, but it's a foundational layer. And that's why, funny old thing, it's called the Cyber Foundation course. I like to think I'm pretty good at getting information across. And so, who is this training for? It's not for cyber departments, it's not for security specialists. This is for small companies, this is for solopreneurs, this is for entrepreneurs, this is for mom and pop shops, and this is for private citizens if you're interested. Really accessible, and we're doing this as a special deal at the moment because it's the first time this is coming out and this is the launch. But regardless, just think on this. 92% of all cyber attacks are actually delivered by email. Simple email. Now, an email attack, with a couple of notable exceptions, has got to be opened and clicked on to do something. If you know what you're looking for and you know not to do that, you have killed 92% of your vulnerabilities. And do you think that's worth that for a few quid? I do. Now, those attacks that do get through, 4 out of 5 have actually shown that antivirus, which is about the level of protection that most people have got, doesn't even catch it or stop it. So don't think you're safe just because you've got your antivirus fitted on your laptop. Here's another statistic that might make you consider this whole subject more seriously. In the last year in the US, 50% of small businesses have actually reported some kind of cyber breach. Now, that came from the Poneman Foundation in the US. We can only go by the research and the numbers, but it's pretty frightening whatever way you look at it. Now, just to give you an idea who's worked on this, as I said, some of our guys are the best in the world at the deep technical stuff. But in our team, we've also got weaponized social media specialists. We've got social engineers who are in our associate group. We've got former special forces guys who actually do physical breaking. We've got network attack specialists, and we've got the deep, what people think of traditional cyber guys, all helping out to advise and educate on these courses. Now, you may have to put up with me talking at you, but trust in the background information that's out there. So if you don't want to be in that position where your credit card suddenly gets declined because it's maxed out, or a bill doesn't get paid to a supplier who's invoiced you and you think you've paid it because you paid it to somewhere else and it was hooky, or even as simple as your account gets emptied, these are all things to avoid. And as I said to you, in quite a lot of these circumstances, the banks won't cover you anymore. So if you have got any of these concerns, just click the links below, go and have a look at what we're talking about, have a look at the course, and you'll see that we've got some free resources for you there regardless, because what we want you to do is be safe. Hopefully see you on the other side, see you when you get in the course.